Well, hello. Now, before we get into my video, I thought I'd show you this picture of a rather sad looking E-type. And I took this picture from Richard Michael Owen's website. Richard Michael Owen is in Canada. He is a restorer, enthusiast of pretty much everything British, but particularly Jaguars. Not quite sure why this one has that stupid headlight in the middle. And he drives in a red E-Type, his daily car. And I'm not sure, it might be this one, but I don't know that for a fact. It's just one on his website, and I hope he won't be upset at me copying his image. Richard and I have been exchanging emails recently regarding patina. Now, I am not a lover of patina. I would much rather see a nice shiny car. However, Richard loves patina. He thinks it's the be all and end all, and I don't. And we agree to disagree politely. Particularly with wiring harnesses, I am quite adamant in the fact that 60-year-old wiring harnesses are dangerous and should be replaced. I don't care about the rest of the car. If you want patina, great, good for you. But if you spend a lot of money on the car, and it's worth a lot of money, if you don't replace the wiring harness, you run, in my mind, a huge risk of the car catching fire. In the exchange between Richard and I, he said, well, how old's the wiring in your house? Yeah, well, I'm sorry there, Richard. The wiring in my house is 10 years old because I live in a pretty new house. But back in the UK, one of my jobs was an electrician. And this was back in the 60s. And we were replacing wiring that was old. 40 years, something like that, old. And the reason we were replacing it is because the technology in the olden days, the wires were braided, such as they are on the E-Type. Now, yes, I know there are plastic ones on the E-Type of Jaguars, but they were done in vulcanized rubber. And vulcanized rubber breaks down. And I tried to point out to Richard that the house wiring isn't jam-packed and it's double insulated. In a car, the wires are jam-packed next to each other. They're not double insulated. Yes, they may have a braiding around them, but that's not a protection. They go through metal firewalls, etc., usually with a rubber grommet that has corroded or rotted. And they are in a terrible condition. This can cause fires. I have known a number of fires because of wiring harnesses that were old. In particular, when I worked at a Jaguar restoration shop back in the UK, we had a beautifully restored E-Type come in, and we had to replace all the wiring because when they restored it, they did not replace the wiring. And we had to do that, and it caused a fire. Fortunately, they managed to get rid of or stop the fire before it completely destroyed the car, but it was a bloody mess. Also, I had personal experience of a wire that shorted out in a car that I owned, and it was a horn wire, as it happens. Not that that's particularly relevant, but that wire burnt from the horn, which was at the front of the car, right the way through the engine bay. Fortunately, didn't set light to the fuel. And, excuse me, up through the dash, up the steering column to where the horn button was. That car filled with acrid smoke in a matter of seconds. Fortunately, I managed to stop and get out, and the car didn't burst into flames. It's just one of those things. It's one of my pet peeves. Now, it's a case of each to their own, and Richard is quite happy to keep the old wiring in his car And I guess if the customer insists, he leaves the original wiring in their cars. It is not something I would do. It is not something I recommend. It's a case of each to their own. This, to me, is you're just asking for trouble. Now, I have spent, gosh, I'd hate to think how much I've spent on my Mark II restoration over the years. And the fact that I could have just left the original wiring harness in and it caught fire, then all my hard work and money I've spent on the car would go up in smoke. And it doesn't matter about insurance. That's not the point. The point is something I've spilt blood on, loved, and still do love, would be burnt to a metal shell. And that would be the only things that survived. I mean, depending on the fire, of course, you could probably even melt the cylinder head, who knows. It's just not something I would risk. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Those of you that don't follow Richard Michael Owen, you should. He has a wonderful shop in Canada. No, I haven't visited it, but I will one day. And he does excellent work. Him and his father have been doing it for more years than I've been alive, probably. Well, that may be debatable. However, I'll put a link in the description for Richard's shop. Go and have a look at his website. Hey, you never know, you might even find something you want to buy. I just hope you're rich. Okay, that's it for now. Enough of my prattling. I will now jump into my video. And thank you for listening to my drivel. Okay, sorry you're having to look at my ugly mug. I used to be handsome. Old age is a bitch. Now, tomorrow, which is Sunday, my wife and I will be bleeding the clutch and bleeding the brake. Unfortunately, my wife does not want to be on camera, either visually or audioily. So I'm just going to have to update you once it's done and say, yes, it's done, it works, no, it doesn't. Which is a great shame, but that's what we've got to do. Now, what else are we looking at in here? Hang on, let me flip you. Yeah. Now, my son is coming to... Sorry, I'm trying to get this in focus here. My son is coming to visit. Oh dear, look at the state of the paintwork on my MKII. Anyway, my son is coming to visit next month, and we are going to be driving for 5 hours. I'm going to make him decide. Do you want to do it in a Jaguar XK8 that is old, or do you want to do it in a Dodge truck that's even older by a year? Okay. Now, where do we move to here? Oh, damn, doesn't that look gorgeous? Even though I know that the fucking water pump's pissed off and... sorry. No, stop. Let's move on to the bleeding of the clutch and the brakes and let you know how it went. Well, here's a little trick for you. Now, I've taken a photograph of this before I took it apart so that I get it back how it came apart. Whilst I'm sure I can figure it out, it's not so easier to look at a photograph. This is my right rear door button mechanism. And I was having a problem that this screw would not swing back up and align itself with the lever on the inside, so that when you push the button in, you could open the door. You could only open the door from the inside. And this was just not swiveling. And it still won't at the moment because I haven't done the work, but I know what I've got to do. And it's this plunger in here with the old grease. It still is. It's still very stiff. You see, it should move freely. So what I've got to do is clean out the inside of this, clean this shaft,
maybe even give it a light sanding. I'm not sure yet, but I probably will give that a light sanding just to get it nice and clean. This I will have to clean out with, I don't know, brake cleaner and cotton buds. And I will also do the same on this, just get this nice and clean, because that's where this resides. And it goes on that away. Oh, hang on. That's why I took the photograph, you see. It goes on, I think it goes on that away. Yeah, it does. It goes on that away. And ooh, hang on, there is a. You have to line it up, and I mean, this is going to be fun putting it back together, squeezing all of this up, and then getting these pieces on and that piece on, and then the circlip. As you can imagine, that's going to be fun. However, that's a good strong spring. I'll give it that. So I'm going to clean all of this up as well. And obviously, if it's not pushing it hard enough, it is pushing it, but not hard enough, then you make the adjustment with this screw. Okay, let me get on now and clean this up, clean the inside of that, clean that, clean that, clean that, clean everything, get it put back together and get it back on the door. And then I'll show you it working. I am not sure, but I may have found the reason that I am not able to bleed my brakes. Today I persuaded my wife to get in the car. Unfortunately, she wouldn't get in the back seat with me, but hey, you can work on that. And first of all, I got her to press the clutch pedal, and my clutch slave cylinder moved, so I know that's good. And then we tried bleeding the brakes. Pumpity, 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 pump, and I was getting nothing. I was getting no fluid coming out. Now, I have gravity bled it in the past, and that seemed to be fine. However, I said, you know, give it some good pumping, you know, 5-6 times, pump it, and then hold it down. We could hear fluid dripping on the floor. I then got her to do it while I looked under the bonnet, and when she did it, the fluid in the fluid reservoir that you're looking at now, the fluid rose. And obviously it shouldn't. When you press the brake pedal, the fluid should not rise. That tells me one of two things. One, the brake master cylinder that I got from S&G Barrett is a piece of crap, which wouldn't surprise me. Or two, I've connected up the brake pipes the wrong way round on the master cylinder. And in honesty, I think that is the problem. When I did this, I have never built a system from scratch. And therefore, I kind of had to guess a bit, but I looked at what I'd thought were relevant diagrams, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know. Let me see if I can zoom you. Okay, so there is the master cylinder. And the one on the bottom that you see with the brass connector, that comes from the reservoir. The one on the top goes to the brake booster. I think they need to be the other way around. That would explain my problem. Yeah, I mean, a simple mistake that's going to be a real pain in the ass to rectify. I put my hand up and say I did it wrong, if that's the problem. And in all honesty, I think it is. Oh, someone else mentioned regarding my clutch master cylinder pipe that I would rectify it. Yes, I will. I don't like it as it is, but it's not going to be done for a while. I'll do that at a later date. At the moment, it's there, it works, and I'm just going to live with it. All right, guys, I will update you in the next video. I'm not sure if that'll be tomorrow or not. I've got a customer's car coming in, and I've got to change the motor mounts or engine mounts and the transmission mount. And it's on a Mercedes E320, and they are not the easiest to get to. So We will have to see. Of course, right now I have brake fluid that ran down the inside of my paintwork, but because I'd switched it to the good old silicone .5, it hasn't damaged my paintwork. I do need to get a good clean up under here, but that won't be for a while because I want to get shit sorted out. I still got to get this running properly, which I haven't done yet. I mean, it runs, and it's funny. When I start it, the starting carburetor kicks in straight away, and the revs go up and down like a fucking yo-yo, and it makes big sucky noises, and I kind of get a bit of a knocking. But as soon as that starter carburetor shuts the fuck up, the knocking goes away, and obviously so does the sucking, which of course it would, and then it runs smooth. But I still haven't, and I know I have to do it, I still have not set the timing perfectly or adjusted the carburetors perfectly. Why? Because I've been doing other shit. Leave me alone. Oh boy, and I got that water pump to do again, haven't I? I did send a rather curt email to S&G Barrett. I don't expect it to do any good. I think I'd mentioned before that I sent a email to Mike Horlaw. Yes, I did. I mentioned it in my previous video, with 15 complaints that I could remember of things that were wrong. Obviously, there are more. And I mentioned this to S&G Barrett and said, you know, with all of these problems, all the time it's taken me and money, I've still not received a dime of compensation, which I think I should. And the salesperson that I deal with, Frank, he's extremely good. He's always been helpful. He did nothing wrong. Unfortunately, he's having to sell shit. Anyway, he has now passed my email to, I guess, his manager. Don't hold your fucking breath. I very much doubt they would do anything for me. Why? Now, why would they care about me? S&G Barrett don't really care about their customers. They only care about money. Unfortunately, that's the trend these days. All right, get out in that garage. Go do some shit.